before the show, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Beef, the Beefmaster Educational Endowment Fund. Thank you for what you're doing for the breed and for supporting us. The Southeastern Beefmaster Breeders Association, or SEBA, thank you for supporting us, and be on the lookout for the convention and sale every August. Emmons Ranch Beefmasters, they need no introduction. They've been around for years. Thank you for always breeding great stuff and for supporting our show. C&M Ranches, Kershaw, South Carolina, the Chick family, great cattle. Thank you for supporting us. Lissy's Beefmasters, again, needs no introduction. Thank you for supporting us, and be on the lookout for their sales every year. Cottage Farms Beefmasters over in Jackson, Tennessee. Thank you for supporting us and for what you do for the breed. We'd also like to thank Beefmasters in the Bluegrass. That's a sale coming up September 16th at Shannon Farms in Auburn, Kentucky. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We couldn't do it without you. Welcome into Beefmaster Banner. We're your hosts, Josh Morrison and Jared Strickland. How's it going, Jared?
That's going good. Been getting plenty of rain here.
Had some pretty wild storms here this past week, and it's been thankfully it's been wet. We've got plenty of grass, and I guess we're getting close to cutting our second cut in the hay here.
Yeah, we were able to get a dry spell last week and last week or two we've been getting our second cut in hay out of the field, and made a probably better crop on the second cut than we did the first cut.
Well, and you've been dealing with armyworms too, right?
Yeah, we've had a few around. Definitely nothing like we had in, I think it was 21. We called it Wormageddon. It was pretty wild.
I remember you calling and telling me they're everywhere.
Thankfully. They were everywhere, I talked to actually somebody today, and they're got a Bermuda field that's covered up with them, and they're wanting to cut it, but it's been raining all day, so I don't know what they'll get to do. They may lose their crop. I don't know.
Well, hopefully, I hate to say it, but hopefully y'all keep them over there. I don't need them this far east. I don't want to have to deal with them along with everything else.
I don't blame you. I don't know how them people down south make it. It's pretty.
They get bad.
I it's more of a yearly thing down there.
Oh yeah, I guarantee it. First, I want to tell you thank you for covering for me on the last episode. That was a great episode. Y'all did awesome. Thank you for taking up for my slack self. We were out west taking a little vacation, so it was a good time.
Well, you was probably having more fun than we were out west.
I feel certain, but it's good to get back into it. And we have chosen a pretty hot topic tonight. I'm sure you're going to agree with that, and I'm sure everybody's going to agree with it, but we're going to talk DNA. Anybody that listens to this, I feel sure has a Facebook and has BBU on their mind, and probably gets the newsletters, and they know all about most of some of the new rules that are coming out as of 2024, January 1st. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad opinions on it. And I just, you and I were talking about it. This was probably as good a time as any to talk DNA.
Well, we were kind of talking about it, and we was like, well, we saw that conversation on Facebook and stuff. So we thought, we actually had a cancellation in doing the podcast with somebody else. And so we thought, well, it might be a good time to jump on here and just do a hot topics type scenario. We something we do in extension. We have a monthly meeting and talk about hot topics. So it's kind of where the idea kind of come from, I guess, and talk about what's on people's mind right now. And obviously DNA is on their mind.
It is absolutely on their mind. And going into it, I guess if you don't do DNA already, which I'm going to probably assume that the majority of our seed stock breeders probably do DNA at this point. Could be wrong, but
probably to some extent. Yeah.
But if you don't do it and you're looking at doing it or wanting to do it, we're going to start off tonight by just kind of going through the different ways to go about getting DNA. It's really simple, isn't it, Jared?
Yeah, it really is. They've come a long way in the technology and the way you sample it. There's through BBU, I think there's 3 different ways to do it. You can do like a root hair sample with the roots on there, and then which you just pull the hair out of the tail kind of deal. And then that's kind of the old way to doing it. They also have a blood card you can do if you wanted to do it like that. I think some people still do that. And then really the simplest way to do it, and we've swapped over to doing that, is the tissue sample. And all it is you take a little mechanism. It looks just like an ear tagger, and all it does is punch a hole. You can put it in their ear, or take a little punch out of their ear, and it puts it in this little tube for you. Like I said, it's actually, to me, it's easy. It actually is easier than doing an ear tag, because I mean, you just grab it real quick and put it in there, and the boxes that it comes in, I think you can get it's like a 10 sample box or whatever, and you got a little place there beside the tube where you can write the ID number down, and as you're going through them, you just write it down, keep it up with it, and to me, it's a pretty simple process now. And if you wanted to start doing DNA, I recommend that way, because that way, when you're either working cattle or working calves, it's just as simple as like putting in an ear tag. Everybody's put in ear tags before, and it's just a real simple way of doing it. And I like that because you're looking at I always take the sample with the same side as the ear tags in. That way you're sitting there looking right there at the ID number probably, and that way you have less mix-ups and stuff like that. So, uh, anyway, like I said, it's simple. And if anybody's ever got any questions, they can feel to reach out to us or reach out to BBU. I'm sure you can get plenty of help, because you can order the tissue sample gun or whatever you want to call it, and then the boxes, to go with it. They'll send it right to you in the mail.
Yeah, and I mean it's like you said, it's just I mean it's so simple to use that ear tagger. I call it ear tagger, the tissue sample gun. I mean it's like you said, it's literally just one punch through the ear. You're done. Nothing to it. It's pre-numbered.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as getting your DNA form there on the BBU website, um, it's the Neogen form. I believe which one that one is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Super simple to fill out. You don't even have to send in a check with it. You put your credit card number on that form, mail it with the DNA samples, and that's all you have to do. It's so simple. And I think, you know, kind of getting into maybe some of the new rules. I feel like some of this may be, let's think about it. The way that I look at it, and, I may take some flack for this, and that's okay. But the way I believe, it's just a way to know it don't matter if you're running two bulls and you're doing, natural breeding, or if you're AI or whatever it is, 100% what that calf is when you send that DNA off. And it's just something so simple. It costs $35 to do the ultra low density. Um, it's just something, I personally believe it's something very simple that is just going to better each one's herd.
Yeah, and I agree with that statement. I know it's an added expense, and that's kind of some the discussion online was brought up. That was one of the main points, was the added expense. And it does take, I mean, you take, if you start from scratch, let's say if you wanted to DNA your entire herd, if you got 50 cows and wanted to get the parent verification, well, obviously you got 1 or 2 bulls, that's not too bad. But then you got all the cows to DNA, well, that's starting to add up. And then you start DNAing their calves, well, I could see that. So kind of the approach we took with it is we just kind of slowly did it over time. Uh, and the best way to do it is if you're keeping your own replacements. If you don't want to DNA the cows and just have a sire verified calf or something like that, start DNAing all your calves, and you slowly work your herd into having DNA on all the females as well. And that's kind of how we've been doing it, and slowly getting our herd as close as we can to fully DNA on file. But like Josh, you're saying, it's I kind of look at it as an insurance policy as well. I mean, when you're going and selling these cattle at a sale, um, you know, if you got that parent verification, you already you know what you're selling. The buyer knows what they're buying. Let's say if there's no DNA on file, they get them home. Let's say they go into a herd that is all DNA on everything. They take that tissue punch out as soon as they get them home and send it off, and it comes back. And let's say the most likely the dam will probably be right, but let's say the bull is different. Uh, now you've got issues.
especially if you especially if you buy one thinking it's some big name sire.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
let's just say you pay $10,000, $15,000 for her, and maybe you don't, but let's say you do. You get her home. You get all your everything done. You get your DNA sent off, and it comes back that it's Joe Blow. You know what does that do to you? You
yeah,
know, well, I don't truthfully. If I get to a sale and they don't have DNA, I'm probably not even going to look at them. Probably not
yeah.
even
I
going to
mean,
look at buying them because of that.
and that's a hypothetical situation, but it's happened before. And then that you kind of leave yourself out for, say, well, you're at the buyer's discretion whether you give them a refund or some kind of have to take something out of your farm to whatever. Anytime that happens, it's a lose situation for both the buyer and the seller.
Well, and not
Uh,
even saying that, the guy, that the seller, the person, is being dishonest. Mistakes
Yeah, I mean,
happen.
it can be as simple as, one bull went across the fence from, say, you do have two bulls and one bull went across the fence. You say you even got them in separate pastures. Might have went across the fence one night, bred a cow, and come back, never even knew it. That happens.
It does happen.
Ask any breeder that's got several bulls, and that's happened multiple times. And so I mean, it's not necessarily we're saying anything about anybody being dishonest or nothing. It's just things happen.
And I,
Uh,
and I agree with you. You look at it as if a guy's got a herd of, I don't know, 50 head and 20 of them's never been done. Sure, that's going to, that is going to be an added cost, like you said earlier. I think the smart way to handle that is how you've done it, how you and your dad have done it, is just slowly work their way into it. I do have a couple that when we first started, that I don't know that they have DNA. I need to start. I'm trying to start working that in also, here and there, because I want everything DNA. I want to know what it is. Um, and I think it's personally, I think it's a way to better your herd. If you get DNA back on these calves and they're consistently mediocre, and it's out of one bull or one, or out of one female, you can pretty much narrow down where your um, bottom, your bottom feeders are. If you don't have that, sure, you can look at it other ways, but that's a sure bet way to figure out what's working and what's not.
yeah, then no specifically if you're using more than one bull, knowing which calves are obviously out of the which sire helps you make that selection. But also, one point would be, and maybe we need somebody on here that's a geneticist or somebody with BBU, but also when you're taking those DNA samples, all we're doing is adding to the file bank of the breed, as far as the genomic enhancement of these ZPDs, and I know this would be brought up if we talked about it long enough, but data in is only as good as it's put in. But let's say everything's a perfect world and we're all doing everything right, your performance and they match up with those DNA markers is, I mean, it works, so there's other breeds out there that's way further ahead of us as far as DNA and, so, and they show that it works, especially like Angus is a perfect example. They necessarily can't agree with everything they do, but I mean, they've been doing DNA so long that they've really enhanced their carcass merit or different things like that off of just DNA, so, that's something to think about as a breeder too. Is the more times we put those DNA files in there, the more accurate we might can be with our EPDs and data and et cetera.
Well, and nobody likes change. I mean, I don't like change. I feel sure you don't like change. Nobody really likes change, and nobody likes to be told you this is the way it has to be done. But I truly feel if we don't keep moving forward and making this stuff happen, we're just going to get left in the dust with these other breeds like Angus.
Well, I mean, it's it's always a competition for the commercial man out there, and the better our cattle are, we can do that. And I think DNA is one way to do that. But and kind of going back into the rules, the really, I mean, the only major change I guess that was discussed on the forum there was, you know, in 24, I think July 1st or something like that, it goes into effect that, you have AI sired calves have to have a DNA on file. I guess sire verified calves. I mean, my question to those that do have a problem with it, I mean, you're already going through the trouble of putting a cow up, say, setting her up to AI. You're doing all this, spending the expenses in this. Uh, and obviously you're buying the straws to put in. The price range varies on that, but somewhere between $20 to even all the way up to a couple $100 if you're doing that. But you're doing all this expense to get that more marketable calf. I mean, I guess my question is, what's another $35 to verify that it is what it is?
Right. I mean,
So, I mean, that's AI is not an easy task. I mean, it's a very valuable task, but like I said, you're doing a lot of extra work anyway. I don't know. I just don't see an advantage of not AI or not DNA and AI calf anyway.
if we were looking at 150 or $200, I would say, okay, let's pump the brakes a minute. Oh, when we're looking at $35, like you said, yeah, I know it's another cost, but just like you said, on an AI sire, he's he's got obviously got to be parent verified. You know, you're trying to better your herd AI, and just like we said earlier, why not DNA to just make it that much more accurate for you?
That's right.
It's
And I even I brought this up the other day. We were talking about it, and I read somewhere it might have even been in the Beefmaster Cowman. I can't even remember who wrote it, but I think they did some averages and found out that most AI sired calves probably averaged around $1,000 more per head, at a sale, uh, than just a natural service calf. Well, I mean, that pretty good return on investment for that insurance to say, hey, this is what it is, and we can go to the bank with it.
absolutely. And I mean, if it brings you an extra $1,000, there nobody in the world can convince me they don't want to do a DNA test for $35. If on average you're going to get, even if you were to get $500 more a calf, you can't convince me it's not worth $35. You just can't.
No, and the big thing I'd like to point out too, I mean, it's not changing the rules on natural sired calves, multi-sired calves. I mean, you could run, 3 or 4 bulls and put them multi-sired on there and not even worry about it. I mean, it's not, if you don't want to do DNA, that I mean, that's the way you can still do it like we've been doing it for forever. I don't really see that changing. I mean, maybe someday, who knows if we make it towards very, very affordable. But I said you're only going to be needing to do this on AI, obviously, and which has already been implemented anyway on the ET calves. But that's even another. You're talking about another deal there with the embryo transfer. You're sure enough already doing a lot of work and expenses there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to for a donor dam and AI sires, I believe it's the 100K that has to be done on it. So it is, it's a little more. You're getting into more cost at that point. I don't know exactly the cost of it off the top of my head. It's like probably $85 or something. Is what I'm
Yeah,
thinking. But
I think that's for like the 150K.
okay, okay. But I mean, still, you're obviously gonna have to spend more money for your AI sires or your donor dams that are obviously good enough to be that. They've passed all the tests, but um, like you said, I personally, this is really going to probably get me in trouble, but I I know I'm going to. I don't care if they're natural or AI or what. They're all going to get DNA'd on my place. They just are. I feel like there's people out there, and I'm one of them, that if you don't have DNA in your calves and they're to sell, that's gonna, that's gonna really narrow down the buyers of, some people won't even look at the animal, and I'm one of them. I probably wouldn't even look at it because yeah, and it's like you said, it's not being dishonest or accusing anybody of being dishonest. It's just having that extra data is just that much better.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't feel like, in my opinion, we've been doing natural service calves and for years without DNA, which, like I said, I'm kind of the same boat you are. I'm trying to DNA everything that I can, even though they are natural service. That way, I guess I'm doing that more as a service to myself and to my customers. That way, when they buy that calf, it's ready to fit into each program, however they want it to be. Whether they just want to put them in the pasture and let them be cows and not even fool with it, or I'll just be honest with you, me and Dad, we just talked about it. I mean, we were fine like, yeah, we're just going to start DNA everything because we were selling heifers that didn't have DNA or may have had DNA on them, but not on their parents or anything like that. And then people were starting to flush them and do these things, and we're having to go pull cows out of the pasture, kind of in a hurry to get the DNA in so they can start doing their deal. And when it turns out, it's just easier just to have them as up to date as possible on that
Yeah,
in our
yeah.
situation.
And something we didn't mention is if the cow's dead, or the bull's dead, you can file for an exception through BBU. I don't know exactly the rules on that. I feel sure we could find that out and get back to whoever needs it, but I don't think it's a very strenuous process.
No, we've had to do a couple. We've had, since all these rules did change, like especially on the ET, we've had some ET stuff where the donor was long gone and even had DNA on file at another lab, and they wouldn't transfer it and do all this stuff. So we filed a couple of exemptions or whatever, and it's really not that hard, you know. But I just, if you run into that situation, be best to get with BBU and try to work that out and see where you're at on it.
Yeah, yeah. Do that. And listen, y'all give this episode a listen. You've heard our opinions. If let's discuss it. Let's have a discussion. Discuss it on Facebook. I'd like to know different opinions, and I'd like to hear if you want to come on and talk about it. We're more than happy to do so. If you just want to comment on Facebook and say, I think you're wrong, or whatever, that's fine. That's what this is for. It's a little bit of a shorter show tonight, but I think it was, we both thought it was important to talk about this and kind of get it out in the air, get out in the open. You see people get really upset, and some people really like it. So it just depends on, who you are and what you're used to. And I get it. I'm probably one of the hard headed people when it comes to change that there is, but talk to us about it. I would love to hear your opinions on why you think it's different, or why you disagree, or why you agree.
Yeah, I like seeing the opinions on there, and that's kind of what this forum is about. We wanted to kind of mix it up and talk about some of the things that were discussed, but also make it a learning opportunity for those that may not know how to do the DNA or all that. So I think this episode hopefully it'll go over well. I'm sure there's, yeah, I kind of like it. I like being able to discuss different things. We need to do this more, I guess.
We might not get our hands slapped too bad there. I don't know. We'll see.
That's right. Yeah. But if there's other hot topics we want to bring up, we can discuss that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm good with the hot topics. I'm good with sharing my opinions. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just giving you my opinion and why I think it's, why I think the way I do. Not saying somebody could change my, you could change my mind on it. Just tell me. I'm always open to something.
That's right.
But this was a fun one. Like I said, it was a little shorter episode, but it was a fun episode. Get active on Facebook. Contact us, call us, direct message us, anything you want to do. We'd love to hear from you on DNA or in, like Jared said, any other hot topics you've got. And but Jared, I think that's it.
Yep. I think we kind of we've talked about it a little bit.
We'll see how it goes, but we appreciate it. Appreciate all your listeners, and we'll see y'all on the next episode.
See you.
Well, we want to thank everybody for listening to the Beefmaster Banner podcast. Please know that we are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and we are on YouTube. Just search Beefmaster Banner. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.